All right, the women's Euros are happening right now, which is taking up a lot of the headlines for women's sports right now. But how many of you are aware that there's actually three other continental women's tournaments happening right now? We've got WAFCON for Africa, the Nations Cup for OFC in Oceania, and the Copa America Femenina for South American teams coming up. So this is a summer with a lot of major international tournaments for women's teams, and I've been kind of surprised by just how little the coverage has been of them. Like, I've barely seen anything. I've seen a few BBC articles on WAFCON. I assume they'll make a few once the Copa America gets going. We're pretty close to that tournament starting now. But it's been like really lax. And so I want to talk about these because there's some interesting football that could be happening here, and ones that I don't want you guys to miss out on, and I don't really want to miss out on either. I'm yet to really find a way to watch any of these matches. Like, I had hoped that WAFCON might at least be on Cast's YouTube channel, but from what I've seen, I haven't been able to find any of the games, and I have tried. So I don't know if I'm missing something or going to the wrong place, but I have not seen any broadcast for these, which is a shame because I really do want to watch these games. There's some interesting stuff up for grabs here. The only one I've actually been able to watch is the Nations Cup, actually, which is available on FIFA Plus. And that's a free streaming platform. So if you do want to watch some Oceanic women's football, you can watch it there in the UK. But I haven't been able to find WAFCON or Copa America stuff at all. So that's a bit sad, but I'm going to go through all the tournaments and what they could mean, starting with the Nations Cup in Oceania. This one does not have New Zealand. It, I believe, last time served as a qualifying method for the World Cup, and so New Zealand didn't participate because they already qualified as hosts. But New Zealand is by some margin better than everyone else in Oceania, and that's the case in the men's game as well, but it's even more so the case in the women's game. And so Oceania doesn't really offer that much meaningful competition for New Zealand's team. And so they are not competing in it this time round. So that, maybe hurts the competition a little bit, but it does mean that we've got a much more open set of teams now, and really anyone could win it. Right now, we are at a stage where we are almost to the knockout stage. Right now, we have seen Papua New Guinea and Samoa go through in Group A, and we are about to finish Group B, where Fiji lead the way right now, and Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, and Tonga all still have a chance of going through. But I think this one's pretty exciting for the fact that New Zealand's not in it. That means that there's a decent chance we get a new winner. Papua New Guinea won last time, and they could win again, but they're not the only ones in with a shout, and Fiji, as hosts, will like their chances as well. So I think, it's not going to mean much for, world meaning too much, and oceanic football in general doesn't tend to affect national media too much. I'm not too surprised Oceania hasn't gotten as much coverage. But I think it's fun no matter what. Football's always fun to watch, and I do have a bit of a liking for oceanic football just because I think that every team other than New Zealand is at a similar level, so you can get some pretty interesting and intriguing matchups going on. Even the Cook Islands managed to get points in this tournament, and I think that's awesome. So if you want to watch the Nations Cup, you actually can on FIFA Plus. So I say go for it. I'm gonna try and tune into the knockout matches, because I think this is a pretty fun time. And then we move on to WAFCON, which is going on right now, and African teams have actually done pretty well on the world stage recently. 3 of them made the knockout stage at the most recent World Cup, those 3 being South Africa, Nigeria, and Morocco. Zambia has 2 of the most expensive players in the history of football, in the history of the women's game at least. So there are some pretty solid teams going into this. And so far, the favorites have performed about as expected. They've won their games. Morocco and Zambia opened up with a thrilling opening match day. 2-2 draw. Would have been really fun to watch. So Morocco and Zambia being in the same group means that Group A is probably the most interesting one. Nigeria and South Africa have both won their opening games as well in their other groups. 12 teams going at it in Morocco with the hopes of claiming an African title. Sometimes WAFCON does serve as a qualifying method for the World Cup, and the 2026 tournament, it looks like, is going to be the method of qualification for African teams for the 2027 World Cup. But this one doesn't have any any effect on that. This one's not deciding World Cup qualification at all, but I don't think that devalues it as a tournament. And I'm really interested to see how those four nations do and if anyone can knock them off their perch. So far, no one has, but Senegal came pretty close to beating Zambia. It was a 3-2 win for Zambia, which is a decent scare for the Zambians. So I'm hoping that someone can really challenge these guys. But even if not, if we do get a semifinals that is just Zambia, Morocco, South Africa, and Nigeria, there's still some interesting things there. South Africa are defending champions. Can they win it again? Could Morocco get it done on home soil? Morocco's been doing very well in the women's game recently. Can Zambia finally claim an African title, or will Nigeria, who are the most successful team in Africa, reclaim that title after they lost it at the most recent WAFCON? So that one's pretty interesting. And then we go to the Copa America Femenina, which is just about to start. This one also does not affect World Cup qualification. I'm pretty excited about where CONMEBOL is going, because they are not going to use the Copa America as the primary method of World Cup qualification anymore. But there are still Olympic spots up for grabs at this tournament. The top two are going to take South America spots at the Olympics. And the favorites in this one are Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina. The women's game in South America, relative to everyone else, is not as competitive as men's teams are in the world of football. So men's teams tend to compete better from South America in world competitions than South American ones in the women's game, with the exception of Brazil. Brazil have been to two major finals recently, both in the Gold Cup and the Olympics, both times losing to the U.S. So they will be looking to finally get their hands on some silverware, and it won't be quite the cathartic experience that finally beating the United States would be, but still, trophies are trophies, and after coming so close to two before, I think it would still be quite meaningful to Brazil. And other South American nations are slowly but surely bridging that gap. The best one at doing that actually has been Colombia, and Colombia's had a decent Olympics, a decent World Cup. So Colombia could potentially knock Brazil off. I think I'd be surprised if Brazil didn't win it, but if anyone is going to beat them, it's going to be Colombia, and Argentina are also in with a shout. So, yeah, a lot of different tournaments happening, and I have seen like almost nothing about them, which I think is another sad reminder that the women's game is still not quite at the level of importance that the men's game is in the eyes of the national media and fan culture as a whole. And this isn't to say that, like, publications in the UK, and I should be saying that this is all from a UK perspective because I'm living in the UK and I haven't seen too much on them, and I can't find anyone broadcasting these tournaments in the UK. But I think, like, I don't want to say that the broadcasters are like failing the women's game or being sexist for not showing these, because I don't think that is true or a fair reflection of why these tournaments aren't showing. I think the reality is that the women's game still doesn't have the same level of intrigue and fan attendance as the men's game does. You know, still, for the most part, if you were to ask a random person on the street in the UK who won the Premier League, they'd probably know. If you ask them who won the WSL, they might know, but it's less likely. And if you were to ask an average football fan, have you ever been to a men's game, they'd probably say yes, not necessarily with the women's game. We're seeing more and more interest, and that's really great. And the Euros are being talked about here in a way they never have before. Like, there is genuine interest and growing interest. But we're still at a fairly young spot. And the women's game in general, with so many nations kind of like even banning it from happening, it still is in some degree at a developmental spot. And we're seeing more people take interest in it, but still not enough to where publications are going to be running stories on the other tournaments outside of the Euros, and we're not seeing like broadcasters eager to pick up these kinds of tournaments. So I think that makes me sad, because it means that there's still not interest to the point that where broadcasters and news publications think it's worthwhile to broadcast or write about these tournaments too much. but I think that's something that's naturally going to develop over time. Unfortunately, it's not just going to be like, bam, all of a sudden everyone cares about what's going on in the women's game, not just in England and Europe, but outside of it as well. So I think there is a long way to go, and we will be there at some point. It's just not right now, and that's going to happen organically, probably, rather than just kind of all of a sudden being there. So I am sad about that, and I'm sad I don't get to watch some of these tournaments because I'm really interested in especially WAFCON and the Copa America. Sorry to OFC, it just doesn't have the same meaning necessarily in terms of power balances in the world game, because like all the teams competing in the OFC Nations Cup, there's a decent chance they'll all be absent from the World Cup. So yeah, sorry to OC, but I just want to say I'm really interested in these and I want to watch them. And if you guys do know any way to watch these tournaments, please do tell me because I want to watch them. Um, but I don't know if I'm making this tournament just to inform y'all in case you don't know, or just to feel sad that I can't watch them. But there are some really interesting tournaments happening now, not just the Euros, and I want to at least give them some sort of broadcast, like some sort of I'm forgetting the word now. Exposure maybe is the right word. Sorry, that would end the video. But I just want to talk about that briefly and feel a little bit sad that I can't watch them.